rise strong, roots deep. We rise, we don't retreat.
Hey, ladies. Hey, welcome back to Rooted in Your Confidence. I am Samantha Kaye Harris, and today we're talking about something every woman who leads anything, a team, a project, or her own life has felt at some point the pressure to make big changes within support, clarity, or structure we deserve. And my guest today, she knows the experience inside and out because she spent over 20 years helping organizations navigate real transformation, not a cute, we changed our logo type, the deep stuff that keeps leaders up at night. So let's get into it because you already know I'm here to help you stay confident, stay grounded, and stay at the table you've earned. My guest today is Kamila Adamatti, international speaker and host of Shift Happens podcast. Kamila brings 23 years of experience in change management, leadership, and consulting. She has supported corporate transformation from US and LTAM, and her team works in English, Spanish, and Portuguese, bringing a global perspective to organizational change. She helps leaders navigate transitions, build trust, overcome resistance, and lead with clarity when everything around them feels uncertain. Her speech methodology has guided organizations through complex moments, and she's passionate about helping people lead change and strategy and humanity. Kamala, welcome to the show. Tell every
Hi,
hello,
Samantha.
hello.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm so excited.
I am excited to have you here, and I know I said a lot about you, but I know you can tell everyone more about you than I can.
Thank you. And by the way, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. So, who is Camila? I'm a lady who was born in Brazil, south of Brazil, who has inherited a lot of German, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese. I mean, it's a very mixed, diverse origin that I have, on my background. Very early in my life, I started to work when I was 13. Back on those days, my parents divorced. It was, hard times. And I think all of us have some hard time moment to share, right? It's a roller coaster sometimes. And yes, that's what I faced. And that's when I started to work. And it's interesting because back on those days when I was selling aromas to leather stores to just help with the strong leather aroma on the stores, I would put my glasses on and try to, wear very, executive clothes just to show that maybe I'm a little older, and they will trust me so I can sell my aromas. And, and trying to deal with just, men, the leaders of the stores already. It was a challenge and I learned a lot from that. So yeah, since then I never stopped working. And later in life, as I graduated in chemical engineer, still an industry, very, male oriented. And it's interesting because then you get used to being more somehow masculine. It may sound weird, but that's how it is, just because you are in this environment where everybody's speaking a certain way and you adapt yourself to speak that way. As I mean, many times people tell me, "Oh, Camila, sometimes you sound so aggressive, so directive and all." Yes, maybe because of my background and all, hard times during the divorce, helping my mom to pay the bills, but maybe also because I've been around so many men in my life, in my work environment, that I got used to be like that. And I was taught that you need to do that so then people respect and hear you.
Yes, I get it.
And that reflected in my personal life and professional life, right? Sometimes we tend to separate. So no, the professional, I'm more like this, and no, there is a mix here, and it's important to be because you need to be yourself, right? When you are, and it's funny because in the beginning, when I was a young girl in my is of trying to find my first job in the chemical engineering industry. I remember like, oh no, you have to dress like that, very executive. Don't red on your fingernails because that might sound too much, which I love it. Now I don't, but I love it. I normally wear red in my nails. And it's like, oh, why do I have to do all of that so then people can see value on how I look? Of course, a good appearance and all normal, right? But it was a lot of this male influence on how I needed to show myself to get a job. Well, it worked well. I got jobs from that perspective, but on the other side, how I was feeling inside of me, that pressure about being something or someone or behaving in a way that was not truly me. And it's funny that we adapt to not be ourselves.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy? And we
Yes.
think it's normal.
Yes. We twist and we become who the world says we should be to fit in these environments. And that was what it was only a few women there. One of the women said to me, Samantha, you can't show up like that with all that hair and them nails and this, that, and the other. And I found myself changing and becoming what this environment thought I was supposed to look like, how I was supposed to show up, but I wasn't happy, and like you, I was young. And now I'm shifting and becoming with the world, with this environment, not the world, with this environment, because the world technically tells women that we're supposed to show up soft and cuddly and we're supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
nurturing and loving. But then we walk into these environments like you and I, where we have to shift and
Mm-hmm.
shift who we are and become what the world is telling us there. And we have to find a balance. And I think I was talking to a woman, I was coaching her, and she said to me, people talked about her. People didn't get her. They didn't understand her. And it was dealing
Mm-hmm.
with her relationships. It was starting to bother her outside relationships that she was having because it was so hard if you're spending 8 to 10 hours here and then to go home and not be, because like they label us aggressive, this. No, be assertive and be direct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Normally, if it's a man, is assertive. If it's a woman, is aggressive. And I heard that word so many times, even from other women leaders, which is kind of surprising, right? Because we should help each
Yes.
other. Yeah. And sometimes there are some women supervisors that can be even more harsh on you for some reason. So I also had that experience too. And I'm such a big advocate of like, let's help each other. It's important. But, just to finalize a little bit my journey, and well, I ended up working for so many years in the chemical industry. I moved from south of Brazil to Sao Paulo, and 6 years later I was in the US, where I still live for 12 years. So I live in Northeast Tennessee, and I was brought here through an expat opportunity through Eastman Chemical Company, the company that I was working for until 3 years ago when I started my own business. And to do the another shift was crazy because, and I'm talking about the shift about moving into the United States. I normally say in my trainings, like, look, change is hard no matter what. But guess what? Even a change that you really want, there will be struggles because it is a change and there is a learning curve on that. I dreamed to live in the United States since I was a little girl. I wanted so much. I started to learn English such an early age, really to be able to live abroad, have this, experience. And I came here, a lot of change, a lot of changes and challenges, and some things. Why is like that? I say, Kamila, it's not right or wrong. It's just different. Adapt. Even when you really want, sometimes it's hard to adapt because leaving the comfort zone is just not the easiest way. And I tell you, after all the shifts I had in my life, I can tell you I love change, but I'm not saying that it's comfortable. It is uncomfortable. And it's just to learn how to be uncomfortable and visualize that later on there will be this, you see yourself different and you look at you and like, oh, I grew so much in this journey. I am a better person. I am a better professional. I am a better mom or wife, or right. It's amazing, but it can be very
It
hard.
can be hard, but I believe that change is necessary and that we get to decide once we get into it how hard it's going to be because change seems hard, but ultimately it's just the unknown and this that fear that make us think it's so hard. That's that discomfort. It's like, oh my God, this is so hard because now we're shifting who we are as human beings. Now we're getting out of,
Exactly.
we usually take 2 steps. Now we have to take 5. So this isn't normal, but it is. It's the new norm that you're building for yourself. And that shift is so important for us to go to the next level, for us to become these humans that we want to be, for us to create the change in this world that we want to see as human beings. I believe that doing the hard stuff is just as important as the what we consider easy or being able to conform and become, because that's what happens, I believe, Kamala, that we become what the world wants us to be, and we turn and we become a little pretzel and we twist ourselves. So when we start untwisting ourselves and figuring out who we are as human beings, that's why it seems hard, because we're doing things outside of the normal norm of what society says, what the patriarchal system says, and we become ourselves.
Yes, 100%. And it's just so many levels of change we can have and think about. Once, when I created my methodology speech, which S starts with strategy, right, Samantha? And when I share it, it's funny because when I shared is after years working with change management and organizations. And when I started to share, with people first, just to get feedback and to work more and more and more to adapt the methodology to make it very flexible for different industries and all of that. One time told me, it's like, wait a minute, Kamila, you can use your methodology for anything, including your life. Because I mean, you have to have, like, think about your strategy, your goals, where you wanna, who you wanna be, like, in 10 years, for instance. Oh, I wanna be this, and that. I wanna be, like, for example, a grandmother that can run after the grandkids without having a pain on the knee. Example. Oh, if I want to do that, maybe I need to start to make a change. Maybe I need to start working out. Just an
Yeah.
example. But it is a vision that you have about yourself or about your organization, where you want to be. So what's really your goal? And then you're building the story to, okay, so that's why I want to start working out, my health and all. But you know what? I want to be that kind of grandma that who goes to the trampoline to jump with the kids, for example. But if I continue like that with my knee like that, there's no way. I need to do something. So there is this trigger that motivates you, right? It is hard, but you have that thing in mind. That's who I want to be. I will do. So that's why I always start with
Well, I
strategy,
love
right?
that. So you have that speech strategy methodology. You have the speech methodology. I like that. So how you just told us how you do it with people and applying it to our lives. And you touched me personally because you talked about that knee, and I remember being I remember being overweight and breathing hard, and but I didn't want that because I want to be able to hang out with my grands, and which I do now. I can run through the park and all the
Mm-hmm.
things. But anyway, I digress. I'm back here with you. Tell me about how you do that in organizations. That's how you bring your methodology into organizations to help them change, especially when they're interacting when it's women involved.
Yes. Again, well, change is very hard. It sometimes can be chaotic, it's stressful. I normally, when I talk to organizations that are going through massive change, I always like to ask questions like, what is the problem? What are the pain points? Oh my, it comes a list of pages of problems, but it's all related to this urge to change, lack of structure, lack of communication, guidance, you name it. It's just so many things. So really to provide this structure that I say, okay, I have a methodology. Let's start with strategy. And then we go through all of that. Right. And yes, we start with the strategy and then comes the period of preparation. So you need to prepare for the change. But sometimes the change is already going on. Fine. You can go back a little bit and see what else you can do to be more prepared to what's coming and to fix what's going on right now. Right. And then the execution, as you execute and all of that, that comes with the engagement. And the engagement is really an opportunity where you communicate more and you get a lot of feedback, because sometimes people like, oh yes, I communicated. Okay, you communicated, or it was a 1A monologue? I mean, it was just you saying something and not hearing anything about. If you're not hearing anything about, there is a big problem, because people, they have their own opinions and they want to share. And if you're not giving the opportunity to share, you're just basically making the change happen over them, and they are not part of the change. And when they are not part of the change, they are not engaged in feeling that they belong to that change as well. Guess what? Turnovers, lack of efficiency. Well, in the end of the day, you lose a good amount of money.
Yes.
If not, the whole change will fail. 70% of the changes in the US fail, Samantha, even today. That's information from McKinsey.
Wow.
So it is
It
huge.
is.
And sometimes people don't realize, right? Why? Well, many reasons. But if you don't focus on people, at least in today's world, I know there is AI, but you still need people to do things,
Yes.
right? It's not going to do by themselves the systems and processes, right? So if people are not interested, are not engaged, are not focused on that, are not motivated, it's not going to happen. You see big companies trying to implement huge systems that after years they just lose millions of dollars because they didn't focus on the people, on the adoption. They had a wonderful state of the art system but no one to execute it. So then what's the value of that?
No.
Yeah. So anyway, so then after the engagement it comes the calibration, because you got the feedback and you always adjust. There's not a perfect plan ever. You always adjust. And sometimes there is this ego on some organization. No, that's the plan, that's how we're going to do. No, wait a minute. The people that are doing right now are telling you there are some tweaks, or sometimes even bigger tweaks, right, to do to really work. They are the one using and doing the change. What do you mean you're not doing anything? You will. It takes more work, yes, but that's what you want. You want to sustain the change, which comes to the age, the habits, how you make it to be an habit, how do you sustain the change long term, right? Long term, people feel engaged, people feel confident about doing. And of course, there is training, there is mentorship, and all of that. And coming to the world of women specifically, as you think about the fears, and yes, every time there is a change, there are a lot of fears in our voice coming. And normally, any kind of thoughts when someone announces a change, it's negative, right? It's just the human nature. You start thinking about the negative ways that change will impact you. And then women tend to be even more insecure about that. It's like, oh, am I going to be able to execute or to use this new system? I'm not good enough on that. All these insecurities come into play. And if you don't have, a good approach, a leader very close to you to help you, to say, look, all good, I'm here with you, let's do it together, and really start the conversation about what is bothering you. The one-on-ones, things can fail very bad. People just leave sometimes, because they just don't engage, they don't know, they're insecure, and they leave. But think about a situation in a workplace where something was changing and you're talking to a leader very driven to results, which is nothing wrong about driven to results. It's important, but just driven to results. Okay. Only that. You go there, something is changing, and you sit there, your performance is this, we grew that 10%, we have a problem here. That is the conversation. And you are there sitting, okay, thank you. Instead of, first of all, look, there's been a lot going on. Tell me what's going on with you. How can I help you? Right? And support. And that, is there any question you have? Do you have any suggestion? It's important for me. You are the user. Tell me. We can work together to adapt, to make it better for everybody. And then, okay, then talk about results. But here, listen to this person, the concerns, the fears. And yeah, women in general, like unfortunately still today, we have a tendency to feel more insecure about this kind of changes as well.
Yeah. I that's one thing I do know for sure, and that's why I work with women so much in creating what I have as a brag bag strategy. That brag bag strategy allows women to lean into their credentials, lean into their wins so that they don't have to depend on someone else telling them, looking for that validation from the outside world. Because if you line your brag bag, because all pocketbooks, we always carrying a bag with us. So having this bag with us and allowing ourselves to be able to look into that lining and see, hey, I started this team, we excelled 10%, we closed these deals. These are things that we never think about. And when we're able to do that as women, when we're able to say, hey, I am here because I did X, Y, and Z, we're less likely to switch out, to twist ourselves and become a
Mhm.
robot and showing up. We're not twisting ourselves into pretzels. We're becoming more inapt to ask a question when we do have bosses that'll say, that are, data driven, that. We're more able to say, hey, okay, well, we get it. Now we're bringing change. We're switching how they're showing up, because we're no longer showing up, just allowing them to give us just enough. when we are able to
Mhm.
communicate because we've already made up our mind when we walk into a room, when we walk onto a job site, wherever you are as a woman, when you're walking in confident in yourself. And that's what I believe the shift is for everyone. I know for you going into offices and helping people in that shift, it must have come from somewhere. And with you, for me, it came from me working on sites and being the only woman, being the only black woman, being the only for
Mhm.
so many years. That allowed me to know that I wanted to make a change. And then seeing other women coming in, finally. Like I've been in this game for 25 plus years, and it took so many years for women to just start coming in and they're trickling in. But I noticed that they
Mhm.
still have the same fears, they have that same uncertainty, or they find themselves stepping back because we've been taught a lot of times
Mhm.
traditionally men lead. But when you have a woman
Mhm.
and she's leading, how do we change that?
Yes, it's a journey, right? Yes, supporting each other is so important, right, Samantha? And I want to bring a data here that I heard from an HR person, friend of mine. She was telling me when we put the job description out there and there are all the skills and requirements, right, for the job. She told me that, and that's based in research too. I just don't have all the numbers and data specifically, but high level, I'll make my point, which is men in general, when they see a job description and more or less half of the requirements they have, they go, boom, I apply, I can do it. Women, a lot of times, they need to check all the boxes. And if sometimes it's just one or two from that list, or I don't know, 20 that they don't do, they don't apply. No, I'm not good for the job because I don't have the 20, I just have 18. So you see, is that confidence of the difference, right? Isn't that
It
crazy?
is.
So sometimes they see, and they started to notice a lot of certain kind of jobs that men will apply much more than women in an environment they have more or less balanced kind of candidates, right? Give it or take, more or less. It's like, well, proportionally, we don't have the same difference, the same demographics here in terms of women and men applying for the job. And then they started to talk to women and started to do receive research, and then that's what they noticed.
Yes.
So they started to talk to women, especially saying, look, you may not have everything, but it's a new challenge, there are things you need to learn. But it's saying it's required. Yeah, it's okay, but it's pretty much almost, it's very hard for you to check all these boxes, right? Just give it a chance. And oh, okay, so I will apply. But and then sometimes you see, like, they had, like, for example, in a 20 kind of number of skills, the guy that applied had 10 and the women that didn't apply had 18. Technically, she could do much better, right? Because she had more experience, but still she didn't apply. So I think it's just this example of, the insecurities and all that. Thankfully, I have seen, Samantha, in many places, this is already changing. I think it's been a few years that we are supporting more each other and helping women in groups. I am part of some network groups of, just women, and, we talk and help each other. And yes, we should, as women, all take the opportunity and help each other, not compete with each other, which I've seen in so many
I
environments.
think that becomes when, especially when there's one or few women. They seems to me, like I said, I've always been one or the only woman. And when there are other women that come in, the men have a tendency, unless you're strong enough, unless you're actually aware of what's happening, to kind of put us against each other. They want to make it a competition
Yes.
because that's how they see life, as a competition. They don't see it as a place where we grow together, because everything they do is competitive. But if you think about it, we as women, we come together, we are in kitchens together, we talk about recipes,
Yes.
we sit down, we talk about children, we talk about life, we talk about parents. you
Mm-hmm.
know, we
Mm-hmm.
engage in a different type of conversation. Do I think some of us are
Mm-hmm.
competitive? Yes, I can be. It depends on what it is, but it's not to hurt or to harm or always to beat someone. It's for us to grow and excel. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the difference. I see it every day, being the only woman in the environment now that I've moved into supervision. The men don't stop being competitive. They will trip
Mm-hmm.
another man, and then That's what they expect us as women to do when we walk into these rooms. And there's only one or two of us.
Mm.
So let's see which one is going to win. I don't even think that they're conscious of it. So, like you said, changing the environment from the top up, meaning management down to supervisors, allowing to have open conversations. That's the
Mm,
missing piece in this. That's that shift that I know you've been talking about, that shift that is happening, that's not happening, that needs to happen so that everyone can have a better understanding of each other as human beings.
I agree with you. It's and the one-on-ones, it's interesting. I mean, some clients that I go, I can tell that, the leaders are pushing for the one-on-ones. Do more one-on-ones, connect more with people. Oh, we don't have time and that. Well, make a time for that, because that's so important. That will make your life so much easier in so many ways. If you just think about the results and you're not even thinking about the connection, just think about that. As your team is closer to you and they build more trust with you, they will bring more results, right? If you can obviously take the opportunity and have a deeper connection with this human being and maybe even become a friend, better. But it always will bring you more as you connect to people. They will feel more open to share what they are thinking, their thoughts, their fears. And I mean, it's a win-win. It's interesting that most of my clients and the people that I train are still men, because I'm talking about like VP, director levels of companies, which we still don't have a balanced demographics around women and men. And the struggle with having these connections with people comes from everybody. But in that part, when I see leaders, women, I see that for women in general, it's just much easier to go there, take a time, have a coffee or a tea, and connect with the employee.
Yes.
Maybe it's because of our natural way to nurture and to help people. Again, in general, personalities are different. For example, Samantha, I'm a very data driven person, and all. However, I love and I take the time to connect. I see the value. Not only see the value, I love doing that. It makes me happy to connect with people.
Oh, I love that. I love the data driven because I'm not. No, I'm just kidding. No, you're right because the data itself. Yeah, I didn't become data driven until I started this work, really being engrossed into it and really allowing myself because I needed to know for myself because it just was mind blowing the numbers to see what was happening, why it wasn't happening. So that data is so important. I get being data driven now because it's like, oh my God, how can we change these numbers? How can we have more balance? How can we teach this world to be different so everyone feels in part of it? So data is so
Yes,
important. It just changes the way we get to show up as human beings. And I think if everyone
exactly.
learned how to communicate past the data, past just the numbers,
Hmm.
past just the charts and the graphs, that's when the change comes. Like you said, being able to have the conversation and you being,
Humanize,
yes,
right? The data.
humanize it,
Joy.
yes. And you going into and you're
Yeah.
talking to men and you're telling them this. Do you see the change and the shift in them?
Yes. Yes. Especially because, to anyone, to change, they need to see a benefit for them. And the benefit could be the connection, the benefit could be extra money in the pocket. At this point, they need to see a benefit. Once they really see it and say, okay, that makes sense. That will benefit me, the company, my department. Okay, I'll do it. I'll try. Some people are more analytic and they want to see just the number, and some people are more relational. They want to increase the relationship. They want to connect more. Doesn't matter at this point. At this point, is show the result to the person, what the person really cares, and they will get their why. And once they understand why, things will happen. And one of the things I like to say that, especially when I provide service in the consulting as a consultant, right? Because I do training, consulting, speaking opportunities and things like that. But I work with many consultants in my life before when I was working for a big company. And one of the things that I noticed is there's a lot of this approach of I'll go there, I'll check the numbers, the data, and I'll propose something and that will save you, I don't know how many millions of dollars. It's just very similar approach over and over, different kind of consulting companies, right? So what I do is really different from that perspective because I go there to help check processes and things, me and my team, of course. But not only that, that's why I do the training on top of it, is because I'm not here just to tell you what is right or wrong. It's your company. I come here to propose changes, yes, and I'm going to help you to drive them. Because if you cannot walk by yourself and do that, to me, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I come here, I give you some numbers, I show you some new and different ways to do things, and that's it. No, I'll give you more. You will learn how to do it right and with the center of people. Communication, communication, feedback, talk to people, connect. It's not just about numbers. So that's why I would say that the services I provide are different, because my focus is not in just the numbers and the results. And of course, yes, very important. I'm not saying it's not, but you get much more if you really deeply connect to people and help them to be truly engaged on whatever you are doing.
Yeah, I believe that because I know that that's when your confidence builds with your team. Your confidence, as
Yes.
far as I understand for me and what I do with the women that I work with, when it's communication and you're able to talk, and I get the companies to understand that these women have insight that a lot of time is missed or overlooked because of people's
Mhm.
thoughts about where women should be, their own biases, their own conditioning, and understanding that these conversations and teaching the male employees that, hey, this conversation, for me, the position that I still have, because I retire in April of 2026, but I'm still there. I'm in a training unit and I train. Yes, I'm so excited. I train new employees and I train male employees that are supervisors how to interact. And not only am I training them how to have the conversations with other employees, and when they have women, I'm teaching them technically they show up different at home for their wives. They have different
Mm.
conversations where it isn't always that battle back and forth. And they'll come in and they'll sit and they'll say, Samantha, I said this to my wife because you and I were talking about X, Y, and Z, and it changed. So, us changing this even in the
So
work
nice.
environment, it allows us to change it even in their homes, in their life,
Mhm.
which makes for a better world for us to live in. And I get so excited about that because, like you, that environment when we teaching that human connection, and it's not always that, because no matter which way we look at it, it's that battle of who has the most strength, because that's what people have been taught,
Mhm.
and that's how we've been socialized over time.
Exactly. And it's empathy, right, Samantha? It's just teaching empathy, really to understand the other side better. In this case, the wife, the women in the workplace.
Yes,
That's so
it
important.
is. And I just think that it builds that confidence, not just in the men, because they can have better conversations. It builds the confidence in the company. That's where that growth happens, no matter which way you look at it, twist it or turn it. We're creating that change that is going to take and sustain a company for years, because now people care more. People want to show up. People want to believe in. It's no longer, oh, it's they're going to do what they want to do. No, you feel heard and you feel seen. So now you give more of
Mhm.
yourself to make sure that the company is growing, that
Mhm.
your leaders are leading properly and letting them know, hey, if we do this. So that's where everything begins to grow. And that's how I say it. And that's that confidence, because I know it could be tested quickly. Your confidence can be tested quickly when you're in environments where you don't feel safe, where you don't feel cared about
Mhm.
or seen or heard. I don't know.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Imagine when you are in a group working and it's a project team, okay? And we are in a brainstorming session, and I've seen that happening. And it happened to me as well. Okay. And then I have this big whiteboard, and then I taking ideas and all. And then people give ideas, and then eventually like I give an idea and it doesn't go to the whiteboard. Why? It's just the subtle ways of showing you're not important, and I don't know even why you're here. And I mean, and women will respond in different ways. Some will just shut down, and I've done a lot of that before. Others was like, hey, look, you forgot to put what I just said. That's what I said. I turned to that later because I got tired of that.
That's what it is.
But you see, and then I want to be heard here. Otherwise, why did you invite me?
That's right.
If it doesn't make any sense for me to be here for XYZ reasons, but this is a project at XYZ. Part of the transformation, for instance, is coming in my department. I do a big role here, so obviously I need to be here. So why you are not taking my insights?
That's
Right.
right.
And sometimes, you need to have one-on-ones to the person and all, just to say, look, a few times that I said something, you didn't put you didn't write down why. And then sometimes people realize, because it can be on a negative way in terms of, oh no, I don't care about her. Or sometimes it's the bias where they have, like, sometimes it's not on purpose. I try to assume always that people are good with the best intentions. So then I think, okay, if there is any reason someone is not taking my opinion, maybe the person is not aware there is a bias, or I don't know what is going on. And I'm going there with a very open mind and say, look, I noticed that. And I really would like to hear from you. Do you think that was not important? And then the person realizes, wow, I was doing that. That won't happen anymore. Right. But shutting down is not a response.
Exactly.
And I've done a lot of that
I've done it.
earlier in my
I
career.
have done it too. And there was that fear of what was going to happen. So or feeling that I may have been embarrassed. So I'd rather not say anything. I would sit at the table. I remember sitting next to one of my colleagues, he's since retired, and telling him different ideas because it was received more, or it was allowed, like you said, to go on the whiteboard. But if I said it, they act like they didn't hear me. And I think back about getting tired of that, getting tired of having to have someone else shout my ideas for me or speak into the room. And I got tired of putting my head down. I got tired of not being heard because I had what I brought to the table was so valuable.
Exactly.
On the site at the round table where we meet, I needed to be heard too. So I learned to pause the conversation and redirect it back to me. And what moved me, and I laugh to myself a lot of times now, is the fact that that shift that happened for me in my mind, like, hey, I deserve to be heard. Like, I've done X, Y, and Z. So going in, I wasn't prepared for a battle. I was prepared to move with the rhythm of the team, because understanding that you don't always, because that fight, when you go in and you arm it up and you get out your car and you put on your whole armor and you walking through the door, that's exhausting. That keeps you from showing up sometimes because you don't feel like it. But
Exactly.
when we're able to move in the
It
rhythm
is.
of, when we can show up as ourselves and still control the room and not play it
Mm-hmm.
small, because I'll be dogged one if I play it small. I laugh at so many things how I used to show up because of that uncertainty, that fear of. So I'm just grateful every day for all of the change that I have applied in
Mm-hmm.
my life. And for me as a human,
Mm-hmm.
when I allowed myself to get to know me and what I wanted and what I needed, that was that
Mm-hmm.
was key and pivotal moments to me. What about you? How did when did the change really happen for you?
I guess it's just hard to tell when exactly, but I think it's really getting tired, right? Maybe the maturity comes with that. The fact that sometimes you just accept things because it came from a supervisor, and eventually men or women, even, but mostly men in my life. Yeah, it is crazy, but it is, right? And well, and then also it helps when people that work with you say, Kamila, this is so good. Do you think? Because sometimes you go to a meeting. Let's get this scenario here. You go to a meeting very confident of what you think about that subject, right? Very confident about your input, your insights, and things that can benefit that project or that decision. And then you start giving opinions, and then people ignore, and then you feel like, but then someone else before the meeting said, Kamila, this is good. Wow, that's so important. I'm glad you did that. You got the extra motivation from someone, and then you don't let them shut you down anymore. Well, no, I'm pretty sure this is good. So look, I would like to say that. What do you think?
Yes.
Right? I can be loud sometimes. There's no problem at all with me. I'm loud, right? But I guess it's really those people that in the workplace were able to recognize your contribution, because I don't think we build the confidence by ourselves. We have people that help you to get there, right? and encourage you. I mean, at least to me, Samantha, of course, with time and maturity and things, we learn and go. But once you have people that are with you, that, motivate you and support you, just saying, look, this is nice, go for it and all, start just you build your confidence. It's like, no, you know what? It's not only me. I mean, I think about that. There are other people that think about that. Let me do it. And with time, you are able to do that more and more yourself. But I think earlier, you need people, you need your cheerleaders to be there to help you, to show that this is good enough and this is good and you're good. I guess as you said that was my experience. I don't think I did just out of the blue I got more, it was a journey and I had a lot of people that helped me on that too.
Yeah, I think people do play a part in it. But for me, and I look at the environment that I work in and having one or two men, maybe, but it depends on their thoughts and how they were raised and their conditioning, their upbringing, their lifestyles. I had to depend and lean
Mhm.
into me. And once I started learning to love me, once I started to believe in me,
Mm.
and that's why I built that brag bag, and that's why I teach women to build it, because I no longer look for people to ally. Because I remember that was my favorite thing. Ain't nobody had my back. No one has my back. I used to say it all the time. And they used to laugh because they thought it
Mhm.
was funny. They was like, Smith, you always saying that. So I had to learn to love on me enough to have my own back, to learn to stand up for myself, to depend on me, to trust me. And when I
Mhm.
noticed that's when the shift came from me, when I was
Huh?
no longer looking for someone else to have my back, no one else validating me. When I validated me and I stood up for me in those rooms,
Mhm.
when I was on site and I had an idea, and I was like, no, when I wanted to learn how to work machinery that the men didn't think I should. And I was like, no, I want to do it. I want to do it. And I stood up so much that one guy said, Samantha, I got you. Let me show you how to do it. And I became good at that. And that allowed me to go. So for me, it's more about learning to self ally, love me enough, not just care for me, because caring is good
Mhm.
and it helps you through, but learning to love on me enough to show up for me, believe in me, and to give me everything I need. And then when someone else gives it to me, it was no doubt in my mind that they was giving me what I needed because I had already figured it out for me so that I could trust me
Mhm.
enough. So that, and that's what healed me. You know what I mean? That's that healing that
Mhm.
women need in order to sustain, to stay, because that's what they teach women, to leave. You don't like it, leave. Yes, you get a choice in this. But every woman doesn't
Mhm.
have the same choice. If you're a single mother or if you just want a pension like me, I want a pension. I want all those
Yeah.
things. I've worked for it. And to leave, it wasn't an option for me all the time. And a lot of times it isn't an option. Are we capable of
Mhm.
building? Yes, we are. But if you choose to want to stay, you have to figure out how you can support yourself. And in my office, it still sits to this day. The same colleague of mine that used to laugh at me because I was, nobody has my back. He brought me this sign. I walked into my office one day. He had already hung it up, and it says, behind every successful woman is herself. Light bulb
Mhm.
moment for me because that showed me to
Yes.
have my own back. That showed me to be there for me. And then everything else
Mhm.
that came, boy, I made better decisions picking people and putting them in my life. I allowed so many new people who understood the journey that, do I think allyship is important? Yes, I do. But I first think allyship with self is the key, you know? That
Mhm.
that's how that's my methodology of it when I stand in my truth. Yes.
Yes. I love that. And that is so important. This self, it's interesting because when you said about learn how to love myself, to care about myself and to really, understand myself and the value I can provide and all of that. Yes. That came to me a little later in life. I wish that would have come earlier, but when it comes, it's transformational for sure.
Yes. It
Yeah.
is.
And it's still like, and I think I told you the other day when we talked, Samantha, when I came to the United States. Oh yes, I'm a woman, and on top of that, I'm a businesswoman, Brazilian, right, trying to make a difference in the
That's
US,
right.
right? So, and always the insecurities about, maybe my accent, or maybe my ways, and I'm different and all of that. And what bothered me so much was that working with change management, and I know exactly who is my target, who is my persona, who I want to work with. It's very clear. It's like from directors and up, and companies, medium to big size companies. These are the companies that I can provide the most value during complex transformations, right? I know who they are. And then going to networking, trying to get to know people, and then meeting some people that look at me. They don't even ask me what I do, hear my accent, and they ask where I'm from. And then the first thing they say is that, oh, I have a group of, Latinos for you to get to know. So, well, that's amazing. I love I'm Brazilian, and I love where I come from and all. But then I say, okay, I'll love to meet them, and okay, I let it be. It's like, yeah, the person didn't even ask what I do. He just assumed I wanted to get to meet a bunch of Latinos, which again, to socialize, awesome, my people. But then he also assumed that I spoke Spanish, which I do, but my mother tongue is Portuguese because I'm Brazilian. So he put me in the bucket of, you always speak Spanish. Yes, it's my third language, by the way. What do you mean my third language? Well, my first language is Portuguese. Yes, fine. And again, I take it's fine because maybe the person doesn't know a lot about Brazil, and it's all fine. But then the third time I see the person and say, yes, I forgot about the group of Latinos I needed to introduce you to. Say, look, and then it was me like, okay, enough is enough. And he never asked what I do. Okay, never. And then I say, look, this is what I do. And then I explain. I help leaders from medium to big organizations to go through transformation. And okay, and I'm here for a professional network, and I'm very happy to get to meet a lot of people. But I mean, if you're assuming because of my accent, I come here to meet Latinos, look, it doesn't matter if it's Latino, if it's American, if it's German, my persona is leaders from medium to big organizations. Where they are from, it doesn't matter. I'm here for business. So, and then it's like, oh, okay. So basically the assumption was, okay, here comes this Latina to this event. She wants to meet other Latinos, assumed, because again, don't take me wrong. Once again, I love meeting Latinos. I love my origin. But I was that as a professional for change management. So why, because I have an accent, you just assume and you don't even want to hear what I do? You just assume I'm here to meet Latinos.
Because
Talk to me. Yeah. Because you have a bias that a woman Latina in that environment with a bunch of men, they're just there because they want to meet other Latinos.
yes,
I'm here for
that's
business.
right. They wanted to put you in a box. They wanted to put you in a box, and you
Exactly. Put
decided
me in a box.
and you decided like absolutely not. We're not doing that today. We're not doing that any day. I
Exactly.
get to show up. I get to be me and serve who I serve or show up for the companies that I want to serve. You're not going to tell me because you hear an accent. I think that's the world and the unconscious biases that happen that they automatically
Yeah.
see this. But that's why it's so important everything that you do because you're teaching them a different way of thinking about who belongs here because it's no place that we belong. We inherently get to go and show up anywhere we choose to be. And they don't
Exactly.
see that because their mind and
Exactly.
I think it's unconscious. It's what they've seen and what they've heard
Yeah.
all of their lives. So they assume that everyone fits in a certain place. But I don't have a place. You
Yes.
don't have a place.
Exactly. And that's exactly what you said. I mean, and we were talking about the unconscious bias. I agree with you. I got a little frustrated because it was the third time and the person didn't even ask what I do. And that was a little annoying because we were all there to talk about what we do. But still, I thought, okay, it's fine. There is the bias and all. Let me be very clear. But if I'll let some sort of insecurity of my accent of whatever come into play, I will never be able to clarify and to just explain in a very nice way. I was very, here I was more excited, but in a very nice, polite way, professional way. I was there to talk to executives about change
That's what
management.
I'm talking about.
That was,
Yes.
you know,
You used my framework because I pause people. That's what I tell people. You get to pause them, and then you get to reclaim your voice and hold your
yes,
ground in it. And that's what you did. So I'm so excited to hear that. I love to hear when people just using things and just moving forward in it. Kamala, it seems like we could talk and talk forever. We're getting We've been here an
Yes,
hour.
it
We
is
have been.
it's amazing.
Yes.
Yes, love the
Yes,
conversation.
but I have one question before we go into who you are, what you do, and all those things. Tell me what it means to be rooted in your confidence.
It means to really know that I have a value to provide and that I'm important, that I can make a difference in someone else's life or work. And yeah, I think that's
All
it.
right, now come on, somebody, tell me and tell my audience how they can reach you, and go right ahead.
Okay, cool. Yes. So you can I have my LinkedIn profile. That's the social media that I'm most active on. So I'll be sharing the LinkedIn profile on the notes of the show, right, Samantha, if you allow me.
Yes.
So also the Tona Business Consulting website where you can learn more about my services, and the Shift Happens podcast where I have the YouTube channel. It's also in the other platforms for podcasts, but the YouTube is where you can see on the video and learn more about, my work on the Shift Happens, the people that I talk to, where basically I talk to, executives from Brazil and United States about their journey and how to manage change successfully, but I also talk about the failures, the problems, and the learnings, which it's so important for us also to learn from other mistakes and be there, be vulnerable, be authentic, and really share how to lead and go through change, which is the pace of change nowadays is just crazy much faster, right, than compared to years ago. Is like I saw data one time, is like the last 5 years the change is like 10 times faster or something like that. That is I don't remember the stats, but the thing is, it's not just your perception. Yes, we are going through changes much, much faster than we used to.
Wow. Well, Kamala, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you for coming, sharing. I absolutely love this. We'll definitely have to do it again. I'm so grateful that we made the connection. Ladies, you don't even know we made a connection. We'll have to tell you about that the next time we meet. But thank you again. Yeah,
Thank you
you're
so much.
welcome. Ladies, this is a movement, and it's not just about using your voice, it's about keeping it, trusting it, even when someone tries to take it away. If this conversation spoke to you even a little bit, do me a favor. Follow the show. Share this episode with another woman in a male dominated industry, and take the brag bag confidence assessment. And you don't shrink over here. We speak from our truth, from our roots, and I will see you next time.